There's a lot to see in New Zealand, but some of it is just weird because there are things that only make sense here, but you won't see it anywhere else. And as someone who came here for the first time, today I want to talk about what stuck out to me as the weirdest things the locals do that doesn't make sense to anyone else, to the stuff that I've never seen before coming here to New Zealand. And as always, they'll be ranging from only kinda weird to the most horrifying things you will ever see in here. And let us begin with the first one. So the rules for this video are simple. We don't talk about cultural differences and how the food tastes different, but instead, I'll focus on what almost every tourist I know, including myself, are completely shocked when we found out about that in New Zealand. And number 15 is how difficult it is to travel between cities without driving a car, and how expensive it is due to the lack of public transport like long-distance trains, and how some of the airports are literally hours away from the cities. So when I was planning my trip to New Zealand, I booked several hotels across different cities that are less than an hour away from one another, and thought to myself, bro, so many people travel to New Zealand every year. There have to be like buses and trains to take you around. Until I got obliterated by my Kiwi friends telling me how the only way to go from city to city without driving was to take shuttle buses that you need to book a ticket for. And don't even think about walking there, as it's literally nothing but farmlands and massive forests in between some of the cities. That also ties into number 14, and that is the potential dangers of venturing into the great outdoors. This applies when you're going into the mountains or along the coastline, since many travelers who know nothing about travel safety would just put on a backpack and go wherever they want, since before coming here, we thought wild animals were the only danger. But the true danger in New Zealand were the weather and being unprepared. And due to the lack of the trains and buses outside of the cities, if you have no way or no energy to bring yourself back, it could potentially be a great danger as well. And for all of you looking at all the beautiful lakes in New Zealand thinking you can just go into the water wherever you want alone, they have lifeguards and signs telling you to be cautious for a good and deadly reason. So just because you see people doing it doesn't mean it's safe. But you know what would be totally weird? Not subscribing to this channel if you like the video so far. Because at number 13, I want to talk about the unpredictable weather of New Zealand. As this is the first place where the weather forecast would say warm and sunny, so you dress up to go out only to find it being cold, windy, and rainy all day. Bro, being a weather forecaster in New Zealand must be, I don't know, it's either the best or the worst job ever. How fast the weather can flip-flop is just crazy. Also, you guys ever notice how surprisingly hot it can be, even though it's only 10 degrees. But nothing will be as shocking as the next one, and that is being more expensive than Australia. And I don't mean like buying imported stuff like vehicles or computers, iPads. New Zealand is super far away, the shipping is gonna be expensive, we get it. But it's more the general cost of living in your everyday life. Most people I know visiting New Zealand also visited Australia on their way here, and they're always surprised to find how a burger that costs $6.50 in Australia is going to cost you $8.50 in New Zealand. And the same goes for restaurants, even outside of your typical tourist spots. And it gets even worse when you compare literally the same burger from the same brand from America to the one in New Zealand, only to find out that you have to pay a whopping 20% more than the one I had in California, in America, making you wonder if the cost of living is completely broken. But hey, you're gonna save that money somehow, because at number 11, you have the crazy amount of free museums and galleries to go to in New Zealand. So when I first visited here, I couldn't believe when you guys told me the museums were free, because growing up in America, everything costs money. So I was super hesitant to go in until the lady at the counter probably saw my concern and just outright told me, hey, you can come in, it's free. And you know your boy would do anything for free, y'all. However, they do run on donations, so if you would love to spare a few dollars, that would be great. But if not, it's not like they would kick you out or something. And now we're in the top 10. This is where things begin to get crazy, because at number 10, you get hotels and hostels that come with kitchens in New Zealand. Now, I know in other nations like America and Australia, you also get kitchens in your hotel room sometimes, but those are usually only for the expensive hotels. But in New Zealand, I would stay at the absolute cheap cheapest hotel possible and still get the kitchen all for myself, making it super easy to make your own food since eating at the restaurants can get pretty expensive. But just remember, you gotta do your dishes after using them. And sometimes I even have to do dishes for others because some tourists didn't watch this video before coming to New Zealand. But that's not the only thing that surprised me, because my gosh, look at all the free food! I've only seen this in New Zealand, and I don't know how the rest of the world can do the same. Some of it came from the hotels, but most was given to me by the friendly locals, asking if I needed any of the stuff since they're checking out and they don't want to waste anything. And the kindness of the local Kiwis totally makes New Zealand one of the most memorable places. And number 8 is no air conditioning. And I don't know if it's a regional thing, and maybe you guys have it, but I didn't see any, because New Zealand is way colder than many people believe. It shows the same temperature as many places, but it feels colder. And that's why a lot of beds will come with this mattress heating up, bro. But if it does get hot, you can always open the window, because number 7, there are no mosquitoes outside. Bro, what happened to all them mosquitoes? Did they not get a visa to enter New Zealand or something? Now they do say there are sandflies, and that can be annoying, but I personally haven't seen any. Come to think of it, there's a general lack of wildlife in New Zealand, where it's common to hike for an entire day without seeing any living thing. It gets to a point where you do see wildlife, you get crazy excited only for a split second because you're reminded, hey, they're dangerous. But the most dangerous of them all has to be the snakes. And that's another thing I don't have to worry about when visiting New Zealand. Bro, and that means I could hike without running into a snake. My Kiwi friends always tell me how there's one thing New Zealand always wins, and that's the lack of snake problem. And this is great because nobody likes snakes. Unless you do. Tell us in the comments so we can figure out what's wrong with you. Okay, no more talking about snakes, but who cares about that when you have buses with actually good music? Bro, this is gonna sound crazy, but buses in New Zealand play classic pop music from the 80s and 90s. Now, I don't know if the bus driver gets to pick the music, or it's a radio station doing all that, but my gosh, does it not make taking buses in New Zealand one of the best? And at number 4, I was shocked at how diverse New Zealand is. They always say it's not unusual to be a foreigner here, but after my trip, hey, amen to that. Most people I talk to who live, study, and work here ain't even from New Zealand. If anything, nowadays I'm kinda surprised to see a Kiwi born and raised in the town I'm visiting, especially if it's a place for tourists. And now we're at number 3, and the surprise didn't stop there, because I've never seen this many benches for looking at the scenery. To the point where you see a bench in New Zealand, you can almost guarantee there's gonna be some crazy view. I thought benches were only for taking a break, but you guys took that game to another level. The next one is also kinda subtle, but man, are they good to have. And that is the random book cabinets on the street. Now, sometimes it's next to a bus stop, sometimes completely out of nowhere, and I don't know if it's run by the local library or if it's like a charity that you guys do. And speaking of buses, bro, many stops that I came by has historical fun facts on the wall, and they make waiting for the bus a lot easier. Also, one thing that totally surprised the heck out of me was how the buses in New Zealand are never on time unless you're the first stop. Doesn't matter if you're in the city or outside of the city. So if you have to be on time for something like catching a flight, I would usually take the previous bus just to be safe. But before we get to the final one, here are some honorable mentions, like public toys for everyone to play with, and also public doggy sticks for every dog to play with. But number 1 has to be the metal bar on the button you need to press when crossing the road. I asked the local Kiwis, but nobody seems to know what it's really for. Now, there are some guesses, like it's preventing people from kicking the button, but why would they do that? I don't want to know. Must be from teenagers or something. Or it's for you to lean on when waiting for the signal, etc. And some say it's invented by Aussies, but frankly, I haven't seen one in Australia yet. So if any of you know what it's really for, tell us in the comments, because even Google doesn't know what it's for, and I just have to know. But the insanity doesn't stop there, because in this video, I'm telling you the worst tourist mistakes that people are making every single day that's driving the locals crazy. And you can click on the video right now.